So recently I picked up the Microsoft Surface Pro 6, a Windows 10 tablet. And I've been curious on, who is this tablet actually for? What is good about it? What are the limitations about it? And today we're going to be taking a look at, does it game? Or does it game well? So yes, the Microsoft Surface Pro 6. This is the i7 version. It's almost the highest end one, except it only has 8 gigabytes of RAM and not 16. The i7 CPU is clocked at 1.9 gigahertz, but it turbos up to 4.2 gigahertz. In terms of graphics, we're stuck with whatever Intel has on board, which is the Intel UHD 620. So we don't have NVIDIA graphics, we don't have AMD graphics. So already we know this isn't going to be any great gaming device because it does not have a discrete GPU. But how far can we get with this? However, before we even get to benchmarking this thing, game performance, frame rates, we have to see what does it take to get you to play games on the Surface. In this day of age, yes, there are games that work decently well with a touchscreen, but I'm going to assume you're not one of those people that are going to want to play games on a touchscreen. So you're going to need some sort of input device. A controller is probably your best bet. As the Microsoft Surface Pro 6 only has one USB port, connecting a mouse and keyboard will require a dongle, or a USB hub, I should say. So a Bluetooth Xbox controller would definitely be ideal. However, I do have a little USB hub in front of me, and I have connected some cheap peripherals to this tablet, and that is how I am going to game on it. This hub definitely isn't ideal, and if you want to be mobile, carrying around a mouse and keyboard probably isn't the greatest. Of course, you could go with Bluetooth, but Bluetooth and gaming don't always mix very well. Anyway, with our peripherals all set up, we are ready to game almost. You can game on the built-in monitor on the Surface, and I'm assuming a lot of people are probably going to do that, but do keep in mind that there is a display output on the Microsoft Surface, so I can actually broadcast the screen to a nice 1080p monitor or a TV set if I desire for a more immersive gaming experience. But that's just an option. Anyway though, moving to the actual games. So I downloaded Steam onto this Microsoft Surface tablet and I started messing around. And the first game I tried out, a little bit old, but I personally have some feelings for it. It's Team Fortress 2, that was probably one of my first Steam games that I got into, and somewhat surprisingly, the performance wasn't that ideal. Now keep in mind, I'm gaming all at 1080p HD, that's the native resolution of the monitor that I'm displaying all the games on, though keep in mind that the native resolution on the actual Surface tablet screen is definitely higher. But Team Fortress 2 at 1080p, I was averaging around 41, 42 frames per second, with sometimes it going down to only 30 frames per second with a high of only 55. So although you might be able to play some games like that, that's definitely not ideal. Jumping though to medium settings, I was getting some better frame rates, an average of about 60 frames per second with a maximum of 90 frames per second. Unfortunately, there were still times that it did dip down to the 30s, which is still not ideal. Moving on though to our next game, Mirror's Edge. So this was bad when I opened it up. At max settings, 1080p, I was averaging only around 29 frames per second. Definitely not playable, especially when it would jump down to the low 20s with a max of 35 if I am lucky. Unfortunately, jumping down to medium or even minimum settings didn't help enough. I did have to drop the resolution to 720p at minimum graphics, and that got me some playable frame rates, averaging around 60 FPS. Anyway, moving on to our third game, actually is called Unturned. It kind of takes a little bit of a Minecraft style gaming. You're surviving the zombie apocalypse, and opening it up, holy 20 FPS, 22 if I'm lucky. Wow, this was really not playable, and that definitely surprised me. Though that might have to do more with the optimization of the game, I'm not really sure. Let's move on though. So our fourth game actually was Minecraft, and I'm not very surprised that Minecraft at its max settings, if you want to call it that, performed phenomenally, getting over 100 frames per second pretty much consistently. It dropped down a little bit in frame rates if I changed the chunk load to like 32. We're looking at around 50 to 60 frames per second, but Minecraft definitely is going to be very playable on the Surface Pro 6. Anyway, getting a little bit more serious in games, next we have Burnout Paradise. So racing game, and right out the bat, high settings, I was getting a pretty much consistent 60 FPS. This actually might have VSync turned on. I couldn't really figure that out, but 60 FPS at high looked all right, nothing to really complain about. So those are the games I tried out. All of them were in the Steam library minus Minecraft. And really there were some mixed results here because there were games that performed okay, other games that were really atrocious. So overall, the gaming experience isn't really that great, especially on Steam with the games that I tried, and even the games that I actually play now, which I didn't even try to get into because I knew they really demanded some better graphics than what Intel has to offer. So the question is the Surface Pro actually a bad gaming tablet, a bad gaming device? And it always comes down to what do you play. From the games I experimented with on Steam, yeah, the Surface definitely is not up to the task of the games that I play. However, that might vary for you. Keep in mind that Microsoft has their own Microsoft Store, which you can download application and games from. And there are some games, a lot of games actually, on the Microsoft Store that will perform fine on the Surface Pro because the resource requirements aren't as high. Now, of course, some of the games you're talking about are maybe Roblox or, Asphalt 9, some lower end games for sure, Goat Simulator. But the point is, this might not be a hardcore gaming rig, but you wouldn't expect it to be. You would expect your hardcore gaming rig to be a monstrous, PC that you might have built or bought from Walmart. I don't know. But really, at the end of the day, don't expect the Surface Pro to play anything. Maybe it'll work for whatever games you play. But for me, I definitely would not recommend this for a gaming device, even, a casual gaming device. It doesn't seem that ideal. You might be better off buying something like a Nintendo Switch. Now, I will say this would completely change the game if Microsoft added Thunderbolt 3 to the Surface lineup, because then we could have an eGPU. Now, of course, the CPU is going to bottleneck the eGPU definitely at some times, but we will be able to put a better GPU in this machine 100% and get a lot further with the games that I wanted to try out. But guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have you tried gaming on the Surface? I hope this video helped you guys out. Next, I actually do want to take a look at Lenovo's, I think it's the ThinkPad X1. It's a tablet. It has Thunderbolt 3 though, so hey, maybe it'll perform a lot better in gaming compared to the Surface. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to see anything else, of course, let me know. Anyway guys, I will catch you in the next video. Bye.